When it comes to tax saving, ELSS or tax saving funds are among the most sought after. And why not? Since these funds invest predominantly in equity, they can provide better returns than other tax saving options like the FDs or the PPF or even the NPS. Now, the popularity of ELSS funds can be seen from the rise in their AUM. It has grown by more than 9 times over the last 10 years, from about 21,000 crores to 1,89,000 crores. But unlike other mutual funds, ELSS funds have a lock-in period of 3 years. So every investment, whether lump sum or SIP, gets locked for 3 years. So picking the right ELSS fund becomes all the more critical as you can't get out in between. Now, what makes it even more important is that there are quite a steep difference between the returns of ELSS funds. The best performing tax saving fund turned 1 lakh rupees into 3.67 lakh over the last 3 years, while you would have made only 2.04 lakh in the worst performing ELSS fund. And then there are 40 funds in the ELSS category. So which are the best ones over the long term? Well, that's what we will cover in this today's video. Hello and welcome to ED Money's YouTube channel. You are watching this video on our English channel. हमारा एक हिंदी चैनल भी है जहां पे आप ये सारी वीडियोस हिंदी में देख सकते हैं. And if you know somebody who wants to understand the basics of finance in less than 5 minutes, we have a channel called 5 Minute Finance. Do check it out. Okay, now let's get back to our topic of the day. That is the best ELSS funds for 2024. Now, to select the best ELSS funds for FY24, we started with the obvious and the most tracked metric, which is the returns. Since we wanted to look at the long-term performance of the funds, we picked funds that have been in existence for at least 7 years. Now, out of 40 ELSS funds, 10 didn't have the required history, so we removed from our analysis. We then looked at the 7-year rolling returns of the remaining tax-saving funds between December 13 and December 23, and then averaged them to arrive at the average rolling returns. So what you get are returns an investor would have made on average had they invested for any 7-year period between January 13 and December 23. The average 7-year rolling returns are on your screen. With 21.67% average returns, Quant ELSS Tax Saver Fund comes out at the top. The lowest returns are 10.34%, which were delivered by Nippon India ELSS Tax Saver Fund. Now, a great fund should be able to deliver more than its peers. So in the next step, we filtered out those funds from this list that have delivered less than the average. Since the average returns were 14.3%, 17 schemes were removed and we were left with 13 funds. So coming down to 13 from a list of 40 is a big reduction. However, this is still quite a long list. And so we went further and decided to add the criteria of consistency. After all, it is not just enough to deliver good returns. You have to do it consistently. Now, in this step, we looked at the yearly returns of these 13 funds and segmented their returns into quartiles. A quartile means 25% or 1/4. We wanted to see which quartile these 13 funds fell in terms of their calendar year returns. For instance, Mirae Asset ELSS Tax Saver Fund appeared in the top quartile from 2016 to 2021, but it slid into the third quartile in 2022 and 2023. Now, a fund that stays in quartile 1 or 2 most of the times is more consistently rewarding. So we filtered out schemes that remained in Q1 and Q2 at least 50% of the time. Now, on applying this filter, 2 schemes didn't make the cut. They were the Tata ELSS Tax Saver Fund and the Canara Robeco ELSS Tax Saver Fund. Okay, so we're down to 11 schemes. Now, lastly, we looked at the risk-adjusted returns of the schemes to evaluate the risk-reward question. But why do that, you may wonder? Well, that's because returns are good, but if a fund manager takes disproportionate risk to achieve those, many investors may not be able to bear the volatility involved or may simply be unwilling to do so. Now, the Sortino ratio is an effective tool to measure risk-adjusted returns. It adjusts the returns against the negative volatility experienced by a fund. The higher this ratio, the better the risk-adjusted performance of a fund. Now, the table on your screen shows the Sortino ratio of these 11 schemes. So, the funds that come out on top include Quant Tax Plan, Mirae Asset Tax Saver Fund and Bank of India Tax Advantage Fund. To summarize, these 3 schemes qualify on all our filters. Number 1, they have category beating average 7-year rolling returns. Number 2, they have consistently done well based on their yearly returns. And lastly, they have delivered good risk-adjusted returns. Alright, now let's see some of the distinguishing features of these funds so that you can take your pick. Let's start with the Quant ELSS Tax Saver Fund. Quant ELSS Tax Saver Fund has been managed by its current fund manager since May 2020. While the fund has been in existence since April 2000, it came under Quant's management after it acquired Escorts Mutual Funds business in 2018. So while it's a long-term winner, that performance has to be put in the proper context. Nevertheless, the fund's 3-year trailing returns stand at an impressive 34.9% as of January 2nd, 2024, making it the best performing tax-saving fund over the last 3 years. Now, as far as its market cap allocation is concerned, it doesn't mind shifting across large, mid and small caps as required. For instance, in November 2020, its large cap exposure stood at about 32%, while the mid and small cap exposure was about 64%. But as of November 2023, it had 58% in large caps, 26% in mid and small caps, and 16% in cash and equivalents. Now, the reason for this wide variation in its market cap calls is the fund house's proprietary VLIT model, which is used to pick stocks. As per this framework, stocks are selected on basis of valuation, liquidity, risk appetite, and time. Now, this is also possibly the reason behind the very high portfolio turnover ratio of this fund. Now, the portfolio turnover ratio suggests how frequently the fund changes its portfolio. For instance, a portfolio turn ratio of 100 means that the entire portfolio has been changed. Now, since 2020, the fund's portfolio turnover ratio has consistently remained above 100. So, while this is a rewarding fund, it likes to shuffle its portfolio quite a bit in search of outperformance. Next comes the Mirae Asset ELSS Tax Saver Fund. This fund was launched in December 2015, and since then it has been managed by its current fund manager, Nilesh Surana. So the first thing that stands out is the longevity of the fund management. Surana is also the CIO at Mirae Asset and an experienced fund manager. So not only is the fund in steady but also strong hands. Now, in terms of its market cap allocation, the fund has had a large cap bias. So what you can expect from it is stability and steady performance. It may not beat its more aggressive peers amid bull runs, but in the long term it does well nevertheless. The third fund is the Bank of India ELSS Tax Saver Fund. With assets of just 951 crores as of November 23, this fund is among the smallest ones in the category. Its current fund manager, Alok Singh, has managed it since April 2022, so the fund's history is quite limited under him. Nevertheless, it's among the top rankers in the category over the last year. Now, the possible reason for this is the fund's reasonable allocation to mid and small caps. Even before the current fund manager, the fund maintained a heavy mid and small cap allocation, and the rally in mid and small caps over the last 1 year has thus likely catapulted the fund to the top of the charts. But its love for mid and small caps can also land investors in a soup when the markets go through a difficult phase. So this fund is for the more aggressive investors who won't mind a few percentage points of returns getting shaved off in tough market conditions. Now, a separate video on the analysis of this fund is in the pipeline, so stay tuned. It will be available in the next few days. Now, one more important thing. While we have discussed these funds, in no way are they our recommendations. You must do your research before investing in any of them. Our endeavor was to present the data to you so that you can make an informed decision. So do your due diligence before investing. And with this, we have come to this end of this video. If you like this video, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. And I'll be back soon with another insightful video. Until then, take care.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.